Alright guys, how are we doing today? We got some new arrows in. The Easton Full Metal Jacket Legends, I guess. This is what they look like. They're kind of the same arrow as the regular Full Metal Jacket, but this is just the limited edition there. They're 100 year production. So these arrows, I won't be using them for target practice. I'll be using these only for bear hunting and maybe deer hunting, but most definitely bear hunting. So we're gonna get some wraps on them today and fletch them up and get some broadheads on them. All right, guys. So like I said, we're gonna be building my bear hunting arrows. So one of the things I always do, I always put a wrap on my arrow. Just makes life a little easier. It's easier for like to be able to see when you shoot. I don't normally use lighted nock. Sometimes I do. It all depends, I guess. But this year I'm just using an all white vane, all white wraps, and a white nock. So it should be pretty easy. I use onestringer.com based out of the States. And you can see there I got the bear paws and then the bear head. So I got enough here to do 4, which is what I planned for. I got other arrows dolled up in this too, but these here, after trial and error, is what I've decided is going to be my go-to hunting arrow for bear this year. I like I like a lot of FOC. I like a heavy arrow. So these Full Metal Jacket Legends are 11.3 grains per inch. My arrows are cut at 28 inches. I got a 50 grain brass insert in, or that I'm going to be putting in them, and a 125 grain broadhead. So that brings me up to, it's right around 530 grain arrow, pushing out of a 60-pound Hoyt Venom. It's not any of you guys that like speed wanna have the fastest arrow out there. This arrow setup is not. It's not that. This is for hunting bears over a bait. You know, I'm shooting. The bait from my tree stand is usually around 20 yards. You might have to make a shot at 25 yards, maybe 30. I don't think I can get 30 where I'm at. It's too thick. And yeah, so having an arrow with a lot of weight and a lot of FOC on, say, like a 300-pound bear. I shot a 300-pound bear last year with a gold tip XT Hunter with a 100 grain brass insert and a 125 grain Rage 2-blade, which is actually, I have it hanging right here. And that blew through that bear and buried itself almost 8 inches into the dirt. And that bear didn't go but maybe 20 yards. It's the same concept as, if like I shoot traditional as well. I have a Hoyt recurve, Hoyt Satori. And it's the same deal. I put a 100 grain brass insert in a Easton Axis arrow, and I shoot 175 grain 3-blade broadhead. And I shot a 250-pound bear with it 2 years ago, and that did the same thing. 45-pound Hoyt Satori. It lobbed him in there, but that arrow went through that animal and buried into the ground almost halfway up the arrow. Like, there's a lot of weight up on that arrow. And anyway, it does what I wanted it to. So, and ultimately that's what you're looking for. I don't like to stick an arrow into an animal and then have it run away. I don't like the arrow to stick in it. I don't like the arrow to, I've even seen them bounce off them sometimes, but FOC is what I like. I don't care too much about speed. Speed's good. Like my whitetail arrow is a little different. I have a slightly faster arrow for whitetails, but bears, I like a big heavy arrow. So anyway, this is just a fletching, or sorry, not a fletching, but it's just a little, it's almost like a mouse pad. And it works good. It just gives you a little bit of a softer area to put your arrows on than to roll your wraps on. So what I do is I lay my wrap out nice and flat, and then I butt the arrow up to it so that I know I'm going to hit it flush and at the end, and then I just slide it forward until right there, and then you can see my arrow was pushing the whole wrap forward. Now I just spread my fingers out across it and I roll until I get it to start coming, and then I'll roll it, flatten it all out. Then I'll just put a lot of weight on it and then keep rolling it. There. So now you got your wrap on. And when I ordered these arrows and these wraps, and I ordered them specifically so that they'll stop right at where the cresting stops. So I'm not covering up any of this fancy looking design. Also, what I have, and what I ordered, sorry, is I ordered some white nocks from Easton. These here came with like a cream colored nock, which, you know, you could use that, it's not a big deal. I'm just a little more finicky, and I like to have everything match. And then with a pack of Easton nocks, you get this tool here, which helps you put the nocks on. And one other thing I do, because I find with Easton arrows, the only real downside is if you're moving or if you're twisting your nock around any, then them little ridges, these nocks have these little ridges on them. I don't know if I can zoom in on that or not. Let's see here. Hold on here, give me a second here. Might have to use two hands for this. Anyway, the camera won't zoom, but they have these little ridges, and if you spin your arrow too much, it kind of wears them out, and then you'll have a loose fitting nock. I don't really like that, so what I do is I take a little Fletch-Lite, or Fletch-Tite, a little bit of wax, bowstring wax, all it is. And you don't have to put a lot, just enough to give it something to slide on, and then that'll lube it up just enough that it's not going to feel sticky. And you use your tool, stick that on there. And I like to have all of my nocks facing the same direction. Right there. And keep it in your nock tool here. Shove it down all the way. So there, that matches pretty well perfect. So now what that'll do is, when I go to lay down all my arrows in my quiver, because it's just menial stuff, you don't have to do it, but this is what I do. It'll give you everything looking the same direction, everything facing the same direction, and it'll look good. Alright, so there's one out of the four. And you don't have to have this little pad. I went a lot of years with just doing it on whatever. Also, I don't use anything fancy. I'll use my sweater just to rub any kind of grease that may be on the arrow shaft, but for the most part, they come pretty clean. Now, same thing. Have your arrow push. They have a little guide here for your arrow, but I don't really like that because if you got a white wrap, it kind of blends in. And same thing. Slide her forward until you see the arrow push the whole wrap. Wrap her around, flatten that edge out. Take both hands and push her down tight. Just run your thumb along that little seam. Good to go. Do the same thing. A little bit of wax on your knock. Have my knock facing the same way. I'm not overly picky if my wraps do the same thing. It's just as long as the arrows all face the same. Push it down, nice and tight. From there. And there's arrow number 2 done. All right, I'll do the other ones up because 2 of these will be made up into deer arrows, I guess. And so I'll bring you back whenever I get all 4 done, and we'll put some fletchings on them. All right, guys, I got them other arrows all wrapped up. Here they are. Here's the 4 for bear season. Get them all fletched up next. So the fletching's not it's not an overly hard deal. It's some people, I've actually been asked to make this video just because some guys they've never done it, I guess, and so they don't really have much experience with it. But for the most part, it's actually pretty simple. So this here is just your basic. It's called a uni fletch, I think it's called. It's a Canadian-made fletch, and Monson's Canada is where I get it from. There's a dealer here in the town that I live in, and he orders a bunch of stuff from Monson's, and this is one of the things they have is these uni fletches. Anyway, they work real good. I've had this. This is a new clamp. This is a left wing clamp, but I've got a right wing and a straight over there, and that straight one, I've had that for at least 10 years at least, and it's probably pushing more than that. So what I'm fletching mine with are Duravines. I have been shooting Duravines for well, as long as I've had this fletching jig. It's been a lot of years. Now this year I've tested with some few other fletchings. So like I've been shooting these Easton Diamond veins, and they're a good vein as well. They're a little softer than what I like. And here's another diamond vein, just in a different color. And like I've shot Blazer veins before. I've shot Duravanes. I've shot a few other ones, but Duravanes seem to be what I keep coming back to. So yeah, so here we go. This is the Easton Full Metal Jackets Legends, and there's no real right or wrong way to fletch an arrow, I guess. You got a clean surface, so you want to keep your hands off your wraps. Now orientation, it's not, it's nothing. You stick your knock in the groove, and you spin it once, and there's one fletch. Spin it again, there's another fletch. Spin it again, there's a third fletch. Now there's a bracket for this as well. You take the screw off the back here and take this cap off, and then you can switch it to a 4 fletch. I don't really have much use for a 4 fletch, but some guys like it. I shoot a 3-blade broadhead, so stick with the 3-blade. Yeah, I shoot a 3-blade broadhead, so I tend to stick with the 3 fletches. So I'm shooting we're going to use a 3-inch Duravine, and all white. So that way there, I'm gonna keep with the system I'm going here, keeping everything white so that I can see it after I shoot it. And so on your clamp, you're gonna have these little notches, I don't know if you can see that or not. Yeah, there you go. You can see you got little notches. That's just different distances off of your arrow that you want to go with. It's all personal preference. I tend to keep with the same one. I go with there's short notches and then long notches. I go with the second long notch, and that puts it a fair ways up your arrow, but it's not so far as to that it looks weird. I'm shooting a 30-inch axle bow, Hoyt Venom, and 29-inch draw, so I got a fairly steep angle on my string, so I tend to want to push my vanes up a little bit. But like I say, it's all personal preference. And so I'll be using just your basic boning fletching glue. I've got Fletch-Tite up there, Fletch-Tite Platinum, and that's my go-to if I'm not using wraps. Because if you got carbon, like this stuff here is more like it's more like a crazy glue. It's rock hard, it dries super quick, and it's damn near impossible to get off. Now that Fletch-Tite's a softer glue, takes a little longer to set. It's more like an epoxy, but once it's dried, it's on there, and it's on there for a while. But where I'm getting these arrows ready, and like I said, this wraps, you just peel the wraps off and you clean the shaft and you're good to go. So that's when I use this crazy glue type stuff. So all you want to do, make sure you got a clean hole. And I'm just going to scrape some of this old glue off it makes it a little easier to put your beaded glue on your fletch. There. So yeah, so what you want to do, I'll get this over here. You just want to put just a small bead down your fletch. It doesn't need to be pouring out. It just needs to. It's a small bead. That's all you need. Some of it's going to pour out anyway. Now I always put my cap back on, and then I stick it in my little jig here. That keeps it from getting air bubbles in it. So now, it's plain and simple. Slide it to the back, push it down, and then hold it there for 30 seconds. That's all this glue takes, just 30 seconds. So I'll sit here and hold it, keep pressure on it. And once that 30 seconds is up, take the clamp off, rotate the arrow, and off you go. Like I said, this here is a left wing or left helical clamp, whatever you want to call it. I tend to call it a left wing because from shooting traditional, you got a left wing feather or a right wing feather. And I shoot left wing on pretty well everything. I had an RX4 that when you shot a bare shaft, it wanted to track the arrow the opposite of every other bow I've ever had. And so I had to get a right wing clamp. And that just helped it spin a little faster. So there you go. You're gonna, like I say, you're gonna have spill out. Just take it off with your hand. Some guys will say wear gloves, whatever. I don't really bother with it. And then spin into the next notch. Like I said, there's 3 notches. Now you want to keep the bottom of your vanes clean. So one of the things is if you're going to use your hand to wipe the glue off, like I say, and this is tacky glue, so you got to be careful. You'll get stuck to your finger, and that's the last thing anybody wants. And you get things stuck to your fingers and you can't get them off. And see, I got a little bit of glue on the side of that. There we go, got it off. And then you line her up to the same line you have it. Sometimes, the arrow will shift up and down. I always test fit it before I put it on, just so I know my arrow's going in the exact spot that I want it to, and it's good to go there. So here we go. Put another, just a small bead. It doesn't take much. You can see on that last one, I barely put any glue on it, and it still spilled out the side. So like I say, it doesn't take much. A little bottle like this should last you, oh Jesus, 2 or 3 dozen arrows. Like, that's how little of glue you need. So same thing, hook it on, slide it down to place, keep pressure on it, 30 seconds. I think these arrows are going to be absolutely deadly this spring. Season starts, it's a month away. 2 weeks from now I'll be getting my bear bait ready and popping popcorn and all that fun stuff that we enjoy doing before season. And I almost enjoy prepping for bear season as much as I do actually hunting. Well, maybe not. It's kind of hard to beat the hunting. I shot my biggest bear last year with my RX4, and big white patch on his chest, and is my best bear to date, that's for sure. It's at the taxidermist right now. I should get it back sometime, oh, somewhere around June or July, I imagine. I got one of the best taxidermists in the area working on it, and I'm awful excited to get him back. There you go, 30 seconds. Give her a spin. Wipe the excess off with your finger. Get your next arrow up, or sorry, your next fletch up. Sometimes I do 2 white and 1 yellow. I got some yellow. I got a box of yellow up there. See, that one there shifted down just a hair. There. That's perfect. I get a lot of enjoyment out of making my own arrows. Kind of the same deal with I reload ammunition as well, and it's a good feeling when you get to shoot, you know, a deer or a bear or whatever it is with ammunition that you've set up. So here we got the 3rd one on there. Yeah, hold pressure, 30 seconds. Now that it's a 30-second hold, they say, but then it's a 2-hour cure. So, like I said, I won't be shooting these. These won't be shot into a target. I've already tested them. They fly the exact same as the regular full metal jackets. So these will go into my quiver, and then they'll stay there. That white venom I'm shooting there now, it's probably one of the smoothest shooting. It's fast. It's dead in the hand. There's 0 hand shock to it. It's one of the best bows I've ever shot. They kind of fouled up a little bit. Hoyt did on the venom, just because it's their first attempt at the milled out aluminum riser, so it's a really thick riser, and what they didn't really take into account for was how thick that riser is. So the center shot of the bow is kind of forced too far to the right into the riser, so when you draw back and you anchor and you're looking through your sight, you can see one of your cables and a little bit of the actual riser. And yeah, you get used to it. I've gotten used to it. It was kind of a tricky bow to tune for me, because instead of the arrow sitting at rest perfectly cutting the center shot of the bow, it was kind of veered out a little bit. But say, I had to get a shim kit for it and tinker with it a little bit. I got a bow press here, and yeah, it's shooting good now. So you can see there's that slight left helical to it. I don't shoot a lot of twist to my vanes, just because I like everything to be straight with my broadhead. But there is a twist to it, and it'll stabilize that arrow real nice. And that right there, you can see that going in low light. And when you do get it through an animal, that's going to show up. That'll be red if you make a good shot. That there is hard to beat. So now, what I'll do is I got some broadheads to put on them and some inserts. So I'll turn the camera off and get things set up, and then we'll do that. And then I'll show you the completed arrow. All right, guys, here we're back again. Here's that arrow we just fletched up, and got it looking real good. Man, I like the looks of that. So now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna get this thing rigged up for some broadheads. So here's what I'll be shooting: G5 Montech, 125 grain. And these things are sharp. I just touched them up there last week. So now, and I also got, so here's a head insert, brass insert. It's a 75 grain with the breakaway here. You can see. So what you got to do there is you can either take wire cutters and cut them, or you can twist it and bend it. So there you go. Let's give it a little twist. It'll pop right off. So now there's your 25 grain little dip there. That's no good now, but and then there's your 50 grain. So now screw that in. Take a cloth, take your sweater, take whatever it is you got, just to wipe your hand gunk off it. Now I do mine a little bit differently. I don't, so here's your tools to push in your insert, and you know, your hit epoxy glue, and you know, I don't tend to use this stuff, because once you put it in there, it's in there. That you're never getting that insert out of there. So what I do is I use, here's a brand new pack, but it's that blue glue, that Cool Flex boning low hot melt adhesive. That's ideal for carbon shafts. I use that for my inserts. And then I have these broadhead rings that just make sure that your broadhead is squared with the shaft. You don't need to have these, but it does help. It makes life a little easier. And see, and that's all it is. It's just a little collar that'll come out to be the same size as your broadhead. So there, we'll get the torch fired up, and get a lighter here. You don't want to have it too hot, but it's got to be hot enough to melt the glue, obviously. This is an old torch I got here. Sometimes she fights me here to get started. Not today, it won't. All right. So, I got my arrow. I got the collar. I'll just set it here for now. Now what I do, I'll get this in there, I just heat up just that brass insert, just enough. Doesn't have to be much. It's just enough to melt that glue onto it. There, so now I got a little bit of glue on that. spin it, back it in and out, get it on, and then line up with your fletchings. Just a bit there. Just a hair more. Right there. So now you got your broadhead on. You got a little bit of glue coming out. You just rub your finger down that and that'll come right out. Now one thing I always do is I just give her a quick spin test. So I find that is a little wobbly. So there, a little bit of glue got in behind the collar here, which that's not a big deal. We can fix that. Just peel it out. Sometimes you can get away with putting the collar on first. Sometimes you can't. So we'll go a different route this time. Heat that insert up a little bit. Get a little bit of glue on there. We'll get that arrow and then rotate it, bring it in and out, and make sure you get all that glue in the, and shove it up tight. Line them fletches up with your veins. Rub that out. Give her a spin test. There we go. I don't know if you can see that, but that spins just as true as can be. So now, what I usually do, you got to make sure that keep your veins lined up with your blades of your broadhead, and then just let it cool for a second. Wipe off any excess glue you find up there, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to screw this broadhead out, and then I'm going to clean up the end of the shaft with the tool. There's that little sanding block that Easton gives you with your arrows. Shake to see if that'll cool it off a little quicker. There you go. You still got your insert down in there. You take this little block and just give it a little sanding. Get that out of there. Get your paw that's wet. And then of course we got glue in here. That's fine. Use that little brush to get that out of there. So you can see it here. There's just a little bit of glue that got stuck on the end of that on one side. But to save time, we'll just get a new one. And I'll clean that up later. Make sure that shaft is clean. Put your ring on. Put your broadhead on. Be careful when you're doing this. Don't cut yourself. What I like about this is that it allows you to really torque it down. Right there. So there we go. Give her a little spin test just to make sure. Yep, that spins perfectly. So there you have it. There's my 2022 bear hunting setup. That's my arrow setup for this year. 125 grain G5 Montech, Easton collar, Easton full metal jacket legend arrows with a white 1-stringer wrap, 3-inch Duravanes, and a white X-Nock. This arrow is gonna be a black bear's worst nightmare. Now there's one other thing that you should do before you finish off and put them in your quiver. You don't have to, but I'm a firm believer that it just makes your fletchings a little stronger. And that's just to put a dab of glue right on the ends here, on the back, and on the front. It just secures them ends. In case you get a pass through or whatever, it's not going to knock your fletchings off. So there you have it. Start to finish how I put my arrows together. I'll get the other 3 done and get them in the quiver, and I'll bring you back then. See you in a little bit. Alright guys, so there's the finished product. There's the G5 Montech 125 grain. Put that back in its holder. If I can find it, there we go. I really like the looks of these arrows. They're awful sharp. So there you go. There's the Hoyt Venom, and that's my 2022 bear season setup right there. I've got another quiver on the way. That one's the one off my recurve, and I've got a 8-inch Hoyt stabilizer on the way too whenever it gets here. But yeah, that's it. That's the setup right there. Thanks for watching. We'll see you later.